Thor Love and Thunder looked really cool. And yeah, it's a flawed movie that had some amazing visuals. There were some good parts to it, but overall it was a pretty mixed bag. I'm going to explain some of the issues I had with it, then try and fix one of the problems the film had. Before we go any further, I should say that there will be full spoilers for Thor Love and Thunder. Going into this movie, my expectations weren't particularly high. The trailers intrigued me, but I just couldn't see where they would go with Thor at this point. It felt like Taika just wanted to make another Thor film. After watching it, I will say, it does seem like he's got some story left to tell. It was a pretty fun movie. Some good jokes, cool fights, and it was nice to see all the characters interacting again. But there were a lot of problems with it. First of all, I wish they had done more to address Thor's loss and search for meaning, but it's a Taika Waititi film, so I'm not surprised they sort of brushed past that. However, I liked Jane's plot in the film. It was nice to see her character get more fleshed out, as well as retroactively show her relationship with Thor. I didn't particularly appreciate Gorr being kind of quirky, for lack of a better word. Specifically, the sort of jokes he tries to make when talking to the kids and the heroes. My guess is they wanted to avoid a one-note villain like Malekith, but it felt very off. Gorr had the aesthetics of a horror villain, and his tone should have matched that. Finally, the whole wish-granting plot device was ridiculous. Marvel's had some bad MacGuffins before, but this has to be the worst. I genuinely cannot believe they decided to use that. It's such a cop-out and a lazy way to end the movie. Plus, it prevents Gorr from doing anything interesting. We see him kill one god at the beginning, and see the aftermath of a few attacks, but really, how much butchering do we see the god butcher actually do? Barely any. And that's because he's just going to wish all the gods away. Instead of having an interesting third act sequence, like Gorr laying siege to a omnipotent city, we get him trying to open a door to make a wish. Wow, good stuff. But onto the problem I wanted to address in this video. This isn't the worst issue the film had, but it was easily the most fixable, which makes it the most irritating. My problem concerns Zeus's thunderbolt. Let me explain. During the second act, Thor and his friends go to a omnipotent city to recruit an army of gods. Once they realize the gods won't help them, they decide at the very least they need to take Zeus's thunderbolt. An action scene ensues, and they eventually get away with the thunderbolt. It's a fairly lengthy sequence, probably around 15 to 20 minutes if I had to guess, but what does it actually add to the plot? All it is a fetch quest to get a more powerful weapon to defeat the main bad guy. Sound familiar? It's literally Thor's plot in Infinity War. And that was after Ragnarok made such a big deal about Thor not needing a weapon to wield his power. So why repeat it when it adds so little? It's just an excuse to introduce a bunch of gods and make a bunch of jokes. Well, and of course.
Flick! Oh, flick too hard, damn it!
The Thunderbolt doesn't do anything special either. It's not like it's the only weapon that can destroy the Necro Sword or something along those lines. They just get it so each of our three main heroes could have a cool weapon. So, overall, the whole sequence feels pointless. And the thing is, one tiny fix would have made it so much more important to the plot. How? Simple. Make Zeus's Thunderbolt the key that unlocks eternity. With this change, going to a omnipotent city feels much more important, and has broader impacts on the rest of the movie. In this way, Thor has to face consequences for his actions. Because of him, the key was removed from the safety of Omnipotent City and delivered right to Gorr. Sure, the whole thing is still a little fetch questy, but at least it's more relevant to the later plot. This change would have had such a minimal impact on the movie, but would make it feel so much more connected. Of course, there would still need to be a few changes to make this work. They're pretty minor, but let me break them down. During the first fight in the town, Gorr would be overpowering Thor. After he's pinned Thor, Gorr would taunt him, saying that after he kills him, he's going to destroy an omnipotent city. This is Gorr planting the idea of going to the city for help into Thor's mind. The fight then continues basically the same. They beat back Gorr, who kidnaps the children and vanishes. After the immediate fallout, Thor would say they would need to go to an omnipotent city. They go there, the scene is exactly the same. Try to recruit the gods, fail, fight some guards, steal the Thunderbolt. Then they go to the Shadow Planet and figure out that Gorr needs the Thunderbolt to unlock eternity. They get captured and tied up like they did in the film, and Gorr taunts Thor for bringing the Thunderbolt straight to him. Thor uses Stormbreaker to get free, they fight the Shadow Monsters, Valkyrie gets injured, and they try to retreat. Except this time, instead of grabbing Stormbreaker, Gorr grabs the Thunderbolt. Once they get back to Earth, Thor can ruminate for a bit about basically handing over the Thunderbolt to Gorr. Then, he pulls himself together, and the finale of the movie plays out basically the same. Boom. That's it. Now, this fix wouldn't address all the issues I had with the film, but in my opinion, it helps to connect the acts and makes the journey to Omnipotent City feel more relevant. Of course, you could say that it was convenient for Gorr that Thor happened to bring the very thing he needed, and yes, that's fair, but Zeus is the ruler of Omnipotent City, the most powerful god, and the Thunderbolt is one of the most powerful weapons. Whether Zeus himself came to fight Gorr, or Thor just brought the Thunderbolt, it's a fair bet that they would use the best tool they could to fight Gorr. And at least this way, it's a result of Thor's choices. As I like to say at the end of my videos, I'm not claiming to be a better writer than the people who worked on this film. It's always easier to nitpick after the fact than write something from scratch. Massive respect to everyone involved with the film. Love and Thunder was still very entertaining, and I had a fun time watching it. Anyway, let me know what you think. Do you think this is a good change, or do you think the original is fine? What do you think of the movie overall? Tell me your thoughts in the comments. I would appreciate it if you'd consider subscribing, and thank you very much for watching.